Hello, my name is Runcie and welcome to Runcie Studios. This is an artist safe space and art haven. Today, while I'm mixing some paint here, I'm going to be talking about finding your artistic style. So, for many young or less practicing artists, they really struggle with finding the kind of art that they can call their own or call unique to themselves. The thing you realize after making many paintings is that your artistic struggles actually shift, and it shifts pretty quickly. Um, when you're younger, your main goal is replicating the things you think are cool, whether that's comic book characters, sports logos, drawings that you're seeing your friends make, graffiti in your city, or just different ideas that you've seen around you. Usually we try drawing those and quickly learn how hard it is to replicate a lot of these things. In all honesty, that is the best way to start. I think trying to draw or sketch or just replicate great art and realizing the curves, the lines, how close some of the lines are, how many lines there actually are, like the different techniques that are used in each artwork. All of these things are much quicker to pick up if you're trying to emulate what you see in front of you. Because art is such a distant idea, you don't really know how to do it until someone teaches you or you stumble upon it through a lot of testing and experimenting and trying to find the right color or the right material to use. And this is usually when you're pulled to try new styles, replicating masterworks, or going to galleries and studying from professionals in the field. Sometimes this is when a mental lull can happen and you feel stagnant or that artist paralysis and you don't know which way to go. You may feel like your work is childish or unimpressive just because you've changed different mediums and it's taking quite a while to get the grasp, but you don't have as much time to devote to it, or you just haven't been devoting as much time to it as you could have. And so it becomes a little bit stressful, and you really have to try and push through that because it's part of the journey and it's really a shorter period than we actually think. Sometimes the fact is you can't make art better than your friends and you're completely envious of them, but just a little heads up. I went to middle school and high school and university with a ton of phenomenal artists, absolutely phenomenal artists. Some of them are still working as artists today, and some of them, I don't know the last time they made art. So don't get envious of other people and where they currently are. You can't tell what someone's path is. So don't let that stagnate your joy and your love of art. When I was a kid, I started out by drawing Marvel characters, and I couldn't stop drawing Dragon Ball Z. So much so that I ended up drawing my own comic, and it's pretty ridiculous. It's basically a knockoff Super Saiyan fighting underwater against an octopus, and I thought it was pretty great at the time, but quickly thereafter realized I had a lot to learn, and illustration and animation in general, there's so much to it. You don't realize how flat you draw everything or how wonky your perspective or anatomy is, but it's really fun and it was enjoyable, and if I didn't do it then I would have missed out on a ton of different experiences in my art practice that I feel an artist needs to learn early and experience through their own hand. I was also into photography and design. My dad had a DSLR camera, Canon 20D. Definitely not the newest body. I think you could buy it for $20 online today. But he didn't like taking photos because his hand shook a little bit and his photos came out terribly shaky. I think this was before image stabilization was on just about every body kit lens that you can buy. So he asked me to take the photos once, and after that, I was hooked. I would do all the family photos. I didn't care if I was or wasn't in the photo. I would rather be behind the lens. And that was something that I learned when I was 12 or 13, just by my dad asking me to take a photo and me not really thinking about, well, do I want to be a food photographer when I'm 35, or do I want to take photos on the red carpet? No, I just enjoyed that art. And so I think something that happens is art styles or art mediums that have a long history, like oil paint and sculpture, it's a lot scarier and it's a lot more rigorous on you mentally whenever you enter that field, because there's so many that have come before you and there's so many talented creatives. There really are. It's a pressure that you don't necessarily have with photography or that you have with graphic design. Yes, there are phenomenal photographers and designers that are alive and working today and have come before within the last 150 years, but it's such a shallow field of creatives, and the technology around both of these have adapted and changed so much so in the last 5 years. We're already reaching into 6K and 8K. So to see that level of change, you respect the past, but you also can see the visual quality difference in terms of upgrade. And so I think there's just a different mentality around different creative paths, but if you can find that freedom mentally, no matter what you're doing, find that freedom to test and explore and experiment, I think you can really stumble upon some really cool things. Another thing I ended up doing was building skateboards and longboards after high school. I just was stopping sports. I played soccer for about 18 years, and I wanted to do something a little bit different that was kind of low-key but kept me active. So I started building longboards after I broke a few of them and paid what I thought was too much money for them in the first place. And I ended up buying tons of wood and tons of tools and using my dad's tools and just working in the garage and building boards. And eventually I started selling boards to locals, like riding around at the park, or just friends that wanted to try out a board, sponsored a few of my friends, quote unquote, just gave them boards, and we went to different events and skated and had fun together. And I found it was a pretty great way to build community around my art. Of course, whenever I wasn't writing, I was able to use my camera and take photos of different writers, including my friends that were writing for Tin Man, so I could use that for marketing, which I went to school for design, so I'm pretty well versed in advertisement and marketing with visual aesthetic applied to it in terms of visual communication or just marketing a product in general. I was able to apply that to my own art. I was able to apply that to my longboards. I was able to apply that to photography at times, even though that wasn't something that I would say I'm a professional in. I've definitely learned quite a bit from doing it for so long. As you can see, I have not been doing what I currently do all my life. I have explored a lot of different styles. I've tried out quite a few different mediums, technologies like cameras and computers from Windows 95 all the way to now. I mean, we have so much at our fingertips compared to what masters of 200-300 years ago had. We don't have to grind paint up ourselves. So, take time to explore and don't worry about if you'll ever do this or that, and you're just making stuff, you know? We're not building buildings or saving lives by restarting people's hearts. We're kind of restarting our own heart by just making something that we like. With that said, you guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this chat, like the channel, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.